We begin by telling you that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has brushed off comments from the African Democratic Congress criticizing the delayed appointment of ambassadors at Nigerian missions abroad. In a statement on Sunday, Bolaji Abdullahi, ADC Interim National Publicity Secretary, said President Bola Tinubu's refusal to appoint ambassadors has affected the quality of engagement and relationships with the host countries of Nigerian missions. Abdullahi cited the visa policy updates from the United States and the United Arab Emirates as proof of deteriorating relations owing to the absence of ambassadors. But in a statement on Thursday, Alkasim Abdulkadir, Special Assistant on Media and Communications Strategy to Yusuf Tuggar, Minister of Foreign Affairs, said the ADC's criticism were baseless and politicized. And now to discuss this, we're joined by international policy expert and journalist Adeniyi Kunnu. Adeniyi, thank you for joining us at this time. Can you hear me?
I can hear you very clear. I'm here. Good morning to you.
Morning. Adeniyi, please, can you tell us to what extent has Nigeria's representation at international forums suffered as a result of not having confirmed ambassadors in place?
All right, let me first of all say this, and it has to be clear to the world, that the essence of ambassadors is to carry the weight of the president of the country and to ensure that in that country where the president is represented, there's a foothold that actually indicates cordiality, that indicates show of force in certain respects, and that also represents goodwill of the country that you're relating with your own country. In the case of Nigeria, I have to say that what President Bola Tinubu and his ilks are actually supporting reflect the same thing that was done by former President Muhammadu Buhari of blessed memory, who did not appoint anybody into any ministerial position for 6 months and counting, and a lot of the ministries were headed by permanent secretaries, and it was justified by the administration. And we all can describe or attest to how the President Muhammadu Buhari of blessed memory's administration ended, and many of us are still suffering from all of the things or the incompetencies that characterize the administration. If you look at what has been happening with Nigeria, I think the people that are responding to what the ADC said are not aware that not having ambassadors in certain countries is a reflection of how poorly taught your ideologies are leaning with regards to that country where you don't have ambassadors. I actually, at some point, was looking at the list of those nominees. But one of the things for me, the discussion moved away from the nominees to the fact that these nominees seem to be eternal nominees. And if you look at what has happened, since Nigeria has not regarded the importance of having ambassadors, it is part of what we call critical foreign policy towards cementing or consolidating relationships with countries. Since they've left the country without ambassadors in those countries that do not have ambassadors, obviously what has happened? The country has not had a representation that looks like the president of the country in strategic meetings in those countries. And that's a fact of the matter. So whatever it is that Bolaji Abdullahi said, it's as clear as the light of day. And many people do not quite understand the lineage. So I'm simply saying here that it is very fundamental in this conversation that this great country begins to rethink itself. And I have to say that the Bola Tinubu administration itself must stop talking too much, because what we've experienced with what has happened to us with the United States and, of course, the United Arab Emirates are indications that really this lack of ambassadors is actually affecting the country.
Now, in the absence of the appointed ambassadors, do you think that junior diplomats can effectively substitute to advance Nigeria's interest abroad?
Please, can you say it again?
In the absence of the appointed ambassadors, do you think junior diplomats can substitute to advance Nigeria's interest?
No. I disagree with that. I'm somebody that has worked with the federal government. I have worked with the state government of the country, and I'm in the private sector and doing things right now. I can tell you that there are certain positions you do not get if you're not experienced enough to occupy those positions. And that is why we have governance, we have leadership, we have politics, we have representation, delegated authority. Except, of course, the person is exceptionally brilliant, and the giant strides of such individuals equals the person who has garnered experience over the years. You do not take junior ambassadors or junior career diplomats to actually occupy positions. And I'm saying that for a fact because these are things I know. I still have the privileges of finding myself, amongst people who have meetings at that level. And I can tell you, you do not, as the most populous country in Africa, as the biggest economy in Africa, use junior career diplomats to replace ambassadors. It's in fact a disrespect. And that is why there are certain meetings you do not send persons to represent you. More or less like when President Bola Tinubu weeks ago attended the BRICS meeting, he understood the dynamics of international trade and policy at this moment, and he had to be there himself because he understood the importance of why he went to that meeting. So when we talk about such capacity, such representation, I think it is a misguided posture to actually use career diplomats that are junior to replace ambassadors, no matter their level of knowledge on the job, their status matters. And that is very fundamentally it. It's a grave error. And this administration should understand that it's even a disgrace, if I must add, that it took you 2 years and you're still not able to sort out that issue. It is not something we should find with the most populous nation in Africa. Excuse me, I live here in the United States of America. Each time I go out for the day or I attend meetings, I carry the weight of Nigeria upon my shoulders. And this country understands that. So when you move out as an individual or you move out representing a country, you have to understand the caliber of character that you use to represent that country. In this instance, it cannot be accommodated. It is misguided, I have to say that.
So do you think that, the delay was, what do you think the delay will suggest about Tinubu's administration approach to foreign relations and international diplomacy?
Well, if you look at his policy framework and his policy directive, he's more of an accountant, he's more of a taxman, he's more of somebody who believes in, okay, let's get certain things in relation to finance. When you talk about collaboration at the level of understanding, what I'll call diplomacy, I do not think the administration of President Bola Tinubu understands that. You cannot take away his flowers from him, but this is Nigeria. We know that Lagos appears to be a microcosm of every other state, even if it did better. But Lagos State is not a microcosm of Nigeria because the country is greater, the country is bigger, there are more complex issues to deal with, there are more complex immigration issues to tackle. If you check those things, you cannot actually equate both on a parallel. Coming back to what you're talking about, whatever reason that has been, it cannot be excused. If he waited for 3 months, he waited for 6 months, he waited for 9 months, he waited for 1 year, that is 4 quarters. What one would have expected was for him to understand that rather than go to the BRICS meeting and start asking for more loans, the presence of ambassadors in those countries would have actually given him a soft landing that without a doubt would have made such international trade and collaboration better for the country. Now, let me share this with you. In 2023, I was the only Nigerian on a list of 6 persons that had to provide a document for the United States trade representative here. That's in Washington, D.C. And one of the things that they did, I was the one saddled with the responsibility of providing a framework that would better the trade of the United States of America with Africa. Somebody else was given the Caribbean. It was a document under the auspices of the Institute of International Affairs, particularly the one in Washington, D.C. So what did we do? We examined critical areas that the United States of America should consider in terms of doing businesses with Africa. In fact, it was a document meant to improve the trade relationship of the United States of America with Nigeria. I was the only Nigerian on that list, and I knew what happened at the session we had. Now, I'm speaking from a position of knowledge here that Nigeria and the administration of President Bola Tinubu does not understand that its delay is a reflection of poor competence or no competence at all. It is also a reflection of somewhat disregard for the countries that do not have ambassadors. Let me also say this. The country, rather than go to beg for more debt, doesn't even understand how to leverage the position of ambassadors in order to actually create room for foreign direct investment. This administration doesn't understand that. I can do the same presentation for them and present this document because they are messing up. That's it. I love the country. I have worked for the federal government. I've worked for the state government. So what I'm telling you is not saying it because it's party relationship. This is about the posture of countries that expect you to have ambassadors in them, and you do not have ambassadors in those countries. So right now, it is reflecting poorly on the competence of this president. It is reflecting poorly on the people he surrounds himself with in terms of those that actually should represent the country. Then it's also reflecting very poorly on his judgment of the character that he surrounds himself with. Excuse me, I do not mean to disregard the powers of the offices of the president, but as a matter of fact, it is fundamental to say this because I am aware from the inside that this reflects very poorly on the country. So for the president, perhaps maybe his own is to look at how we could use the ambassadorial position to actually align people politically, or perhaps he feels, okay, let me look at what happens in this first time. And excuse me, people cannot use such critical offices as tools of political trademark or tools of political exchange. It has to be used duly to ensure that the country's status and representation is considered or countenanced properly, and many other things that are supposed to be positive. In the absence of this that I've told you, then it's gross failure on the part of the administration.
Thank you so much, Adeniyi, for joining us and giving us this update.